With AI, as a solopreneur, you have the ability to contribute more than you ever have before.
Bryan McAnulty is the founder of Heights Platform, the all-in-one AI-powered online course and community creation software that empowers thousands of creators in more than 100 countries to build knowledge businesses.
And that was a really eye-opening moment for me, that it is possible to do this and I can kind of live where I want to live.
With a passion for discovery, Bryan has traveled to more than 30 countries and over 100 cities, meeting creators along the way.
By the end of that month, I was hooked. I was like, wait, I don't want to go back. I want to travel more.
Hey, I'm your host, Gabe Marusca with the Solopreneurship Show. Quick one before the episode starts. About 80% of you watching, you didn't hit that follow or subscribe button. If you get any value from this, if the stories we share and the learnings that you get from my guests help you or your business in any way, can you please do me a favor and hit that follow or subscribe button? It helps the show more than you can even imagine. And the bigger the show gets, the better the guest gets. Thank you so much and enjoy the episode. Hey Bryan, welcome to the Solopreneurship Show.
Hey, glad to talk with you.
My pleasure, and looking forward to this conversation since you have quite a similar journey. You started as a product designer and a nomad lifestyle quite early in your journey. How did that come about?
So yeah, my journey started as like a freelance graphic designer, web designer, eventually trying to build my own studio with that, which I started in 2009. All of that, I think, started because in high school, I was kind of worried about what I would do later on. A lot of my friends were saying, oh, I'm going to go to college, go to university. And they didn't really know exactly what they wanted to do, but they said, that's what I'm going to do. And then I'll figure it out there. And I was really uncomfortable with that idea. And first of all, because college is very expensive in the US, but also just because I felt like if I'm going to spend my time to do that, I need to know what it is that I actually want to do in the future. So I spent a lot of time thinking about that, of what I actually enjoyed doing, what I wanted to learn more about. And I had already done freelance graphic design since I was 13. I had a part-time clients even. And that was because I was really into computers and design programs from a young age. My dad worked in the magazine publication industry where he was doing mainly sales, but he had the design programs on his computer as well. And so I was there 8 years old, learning how to draw boxes and shapes and everything in the design programs. And so much to the point that my dad would be out in the field, he would call me and somebody he'd be working with would say, how do I get the color palette to come back up? And I would answer him and they'd say, wow, you have tech support with a design company? He said, no, that's my 8-year-old son. And so I really enjoyed it at a young age. And I love building things, Legos, creating in any way like that. So it felt natural to me. I enjoyed doing that. I felt like, okay, I already know this. I decided to not go to college and then to pursue this design and development. It was more design and turned into more development later on. The websites turned to web applications and everything advanced pretty quickly. But when it comes to becoming a nomad, I also had the feeling that I, in the same sense, wanted to figure out, where do I want to live? What do I want to do? And my family had not really traveled that much growing up. We went to Disneyland, Disney World a lot, and that's kind of the normal thing for people on the East Coast in the US to do. We went to Canada once, but apart from that, I'd never traveled internationally or anything. And I was reading the 4-Hour Workweek, as most people have, but before even finishing it, like, it clicked with me and I realized that makes sense. Why can't I do that? Because my clients at the time, they weren't in the same cities as me. They weren't in the same town or anything. And so what's the difference then if I'm in a different country versus a different state? And I had an opportunity that one of my friends said, hey, I found this English teaching camp in Italy because he was visiting his family down there. And he said, I think we should do it. And they will actually they'll pay for us to stay there. All we had to do was pay for the flight or something like this. And it was going to be for a month. And I said, okay, let's do it. Let's try that. And it was scary because I had teammates, like contractors at the time, but I had never like fully given them the ability to help me out in certain critical times. Like I would still be the one that did the final submissions for things. in this case, it was a magazine that had to go to print actually at the time when I would be going to Italy. And that was scary for me because that was one of the first like real points of where I really had to delegate and trust my team. And also at the time, it was much harder to figure out internet internationally. And so I had to pay for dollar service from my phone provider to be able to have internet while I visited Italy, and then had to buy like a 3G like USB stick or whatever for my computer because I think my friends like grandparents who we first visited didn't even have internet in their home. And then, but the long story short is I got there. I'm standing on the like hills in San Remo where they lived. And then I'm talking with my team, I'm talking with the client. It all got submitted. Everything worked without a hitch. And that was a really eye-opening moment for me that it is possible to do this and I can kind of live where I want to live. And so by the end of that month, I was hooked. I was like, wait, I don't want to go back. I want to travel more. And so I did have to go back. But then 2 months after that, I started traveling again for a couple months, again in Europe. And then by the maybe even before the start of the next year, I decided, okay, I'm going to really go in all in on this. And I bought a one-way ticket and was out of the US for more than 13 months, traveling around Europe and Asia. And since then, I've been to 30 countries, more than 100 cities. And yeah, that was back in 2010, but still traveling a lot today.
Man, that's impressive. And especially because back then it seems that the challenges of being a digital nomad were quite serious. Now, when we say it's hard to find a stable internet connection, we mean like we probably don't have a stable 100 megabits per second or something, but not like that, like to pay 200 bucks to just have internet connection. That's something. And to circle back a bit at the beginning, you mentioned that you start right away using contractors and such to get help with your work. And since this is a challenge that most solopreneurs have, and they are trapped in this mindset that as solopreneurs, they have to do everything themselves, when in reality, they can work with contractors but not have full-time employees if they still want to become a solopreneur. What would be your advice for them in order to make sure that they find the right fit?
Yeah, I really like this question because I relate well with solopreneurs, even though myself now, I'm not really quite a solopreneur as we do have a team. But there's two things I feel strongly about. So first of all, as background, I have thousands of solopreneurs as customers of my software platform. And what I really think is important is if you want to be a solopreneur, if you like the idea of, okay, I want to be able to run this business myself and be able to have the time freedom, that's what we're all after, I think, then I think that's something great. But I would caution people not to have the solopreneur title become like this badge of honor of an excuse that you have to suffer in your business. So you're allowed to get help, and that can be a contractor. It could be that you decide you want to have some couple full-time teammates. And for me, that's the journey I eventually went down. And I don't want to have a big team. I like having this smaller team that I do now, where I actually know everybody, and it's not like we're hiring all this crazy amount of people. I don't aspire to do that really. But at the same time, I found for myself, I do prefer this over just pure solopreneurship, as it is what gives me that extra freedom. For those who are either earlier on or say, I really want to be a solopreneur, I don't want to involve other people, I love just doing things myself, say that there's still things you want to eventually delegate, because as a solopreneur, you have to do everything. And there's going to be things in business that are not part of the thing that you enjoy. So whatever it is that you're doing, if it's web design, if it's some other kind of creation, that part's fun, but maybe certain things about scheduling or contracts or all kinds of this thing is not really what you want to be your main focus. So I would say that don't be afraid to branch out of that, and don't worry about having to worry about losing the title if someone says, oh, you're not really a solopreneur anymore. As far as delegating, I think it's such a common mistake for people to say, okay, I'm going to hire the contractor now to help me out. I'm going to hire this VA. And then they assume that means everything will be like immediately this productivity boost that they'll do it, all of this part, it'll be perfect, but they don't know how to work with you yet. And so you have to become good at defining and communicating a process that they're supposed to help with. And that is a whole like separate skill set. And it takes time to hire that person and actually have them make an impact. They're not going to just make this immediate impact. It is an investment, but it is worth it, I think, in the long term to allow you as a solopreneur to focus on what you want to do in your business.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with this. In even that I call myself a solopreneur, me either, I don't do everything myself. I have contractors for different things. And even the things I love, like you mentioned, I love building, I love creating websites, and it's freaking time consuming. And I don't do that part anymore. I focus more on the business side of things, on strategizing rather than actually building. And I think that when we arrive at that point, and we realize even that I love with all my heart doing a certain part from the business, I have to let go in order to be able to actually grow and have more free time, free space for creativity. Otherwise, it's so hard to come up with ideas and build things. Like you went from building websites and such to actually building your own SaaS business. And that transition, in theory, it's such a normal thing that we see nowadays, but I think it's one of the most challenging from what I talk with others. And I would love to hear your transition from providing services to actually providing a tool for others.
Yeah, it was a long journey. It wasn't something that was just a couple of years because, again, I started my business in 2009. And we did the client work for a while. Originally, we positioned ourselves as like more of this multimedia design studio because we did the print design, graphic design, web design. And as I said, the web designs turned into more web applications, and the industry just shifted so much. It still is. And then we kind of realized that websites, okay, those are fun, but then it turned out to be the same kind of thing over and over. So web applications gave us new challenges. Okay, now we have to build a whole application. But the problem eventually came back down to the clients want to mess everything up. So we make something nice, and then the clients say, let's completely change this really nice thing into something completely different. And so there was just this deep desire for us to be able to build our own products and for me to be able to create something that's truly the way that I wanted it. And what I did to transition through that period was the first goal was how can we spend 50% of our time on client work and 50% of our time on our own projects. And so I slowly started kind of investing in myself and these side projects that I wanted to build. And I tried a variety of things. Selling digital products, physical products, building software businesses. And some things worked, some things didn't. Some things had varying levels of success. There's a couple of those things that are still around today. But eventually, it was around 2015 that I had the idea for Heights platform, today's main focus of my business. And it wasn't until the end of 2018 till we actually launched that. And that came after a lot of experience with building web applications. And so I had the advantage there that it wasn't like this idea and okay, now I want to go build this. We did already have experience building web applications. So that was a big help. And having built the other businesses and things along the side, it was enough to kind of fund this new venture without me having to go and get investors, which was important to me and still is important to me now. We're still a bootstrap company, and I don't want to raise money because I like to do it my way of what we want to build. And when we did build it, everybody says in SaaS, oh, you have to build the MVP, the minimum viable product, because you want to get something out there and test it, validate it, see if people want to use it without just investing time in it forever, because it's really easy just to build forever and then never release something. So the challenge was the product that we wanted to build, Heights platform, the MVP was just massive because it has to do everything. It has to accept payments. It has to build a website. You have to have accounts. You have to create courses and all these different things. So we already kind of had the market validated by the sense that there were competitors out there. They just weren't doing it the way that I thought it should be done. So we saw that there's opportunity to build something for making things happen in a better way. And what we did is the first year was pretty much just continuing to build it and improve it. We didn't really market it or try to make a big launch at all. We just kind of put it out there and then started posting blogs and things like that. But there was no like real push to any marketing because we knew we had to still finish these other features that if people were going to seriously use it, and a lot of people were going to seriously use it, they would need those features. So it wasn't until a year after that that we really started to market it and promote it heavier. And then, yeah, fast forward to now, that's eventually turned into thousands of customers using our platform.
What I love about this approach that it's indeed quite unique and quite against the general advice that test first, validate, and see if there is an actual need. And you go in the other way around, seeing if there are competitors, and after that build something better than those. And how did you manage to identify what's actually better? Because that, I assume, was just your perspective. How you went about it in order to realize that, all right, this is something that others might want as well, not just me?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that I think is really an important thing because I don't want to instruct anyone to go out there and say, oh, I do think I have a better idea, so I don't have to validate it. Because I think that's not right. There's still some risk involved no matter what. But the reason I felt more comfortable in this path was because I had the experience building products and because I had already tried selling digital products and other things online. And at the time, the course software was basically a way to sell something and then have videos behind a paywall. So the experience for a student was like really lackluster. And I saw these digital marketers who were really great at marketing and selling something online. And then they were selling pretty high ticket things like $1,000, $2,000 courses. But then you buy it and you get into it and it's some videos behind the paywall. So the student experience really wasn't great. And I had this, and also besides that, they would say, here, we'll put you in a Facebook group. And I felt like there could be something so much better than that, that especially if the customer's paying thousands of dollars, why can't they be in this private community and have a course that is actually designed to help them get a result? Because in the long term, if you're the creator selling this, you want to get your customers results because those are the customers who are going to be leaving testimonials, who are going to be buying things from you in the future. And also just because like you want to make a positive impact and you're trying to help people. So my approach was we have these social media platforms that are basically designed to keep your attention glued to the screen. And why couldn't we apply some of those principles to helping people learn? So with Heights, it was a combination of those things that I thought could be really impactful. And I knew for myself, like I wanted to create a course and I knew I would want all of those things myself. So it was driven by kind of my experiences and inner desire to want the platform that I was building. So I was solving my own problem in a way.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the easiest way to validate. If you encounter a problem, you fix it for yourself. It's much more easier afterwards to build something around it and putting in the market. And what was the moment when you got your first clients and how you use those clients to validate further and improve, get feedback and so on?
I think the very first client, I think came to us from Google or something like this. And for all of my businesses or products I've tried to create in the past, I always am very interested in trying to collect feedback from any initial customers. And I think it's a misconception that solopreneurs say, okay, I can build this business that can create leverage, and that means I don't have to be around to talk with the customer. I don't have to have a live chat. I don't have to get on the phone. Eventually, I think that is true. But when you're starting out, you want to get that feedback. And so I always started out with making it as easy as possible for the customer to contact us, for them to call us, for them to get on a live chat. And it would really be like with me. I wasn't outsourcing it or anything, because you want to find out, like, if somebody gets to your site and if they have a question and if they're not going to buy yet, you want to find out why. You want to find out where they're confused, what they're not understanding, what you didn't communicate. And that is super important and it's super helpful, because then as soon as you answer that question, you can go back and say, how can I add this to my landing page or my product page? And that's kind of what we did with Heights too. And we're really open to, if there's something they couldn't find, if there was something that they needed to do, but either wasn't possible or they couldn't understand it, how can we fix the product? And so we weren't interested even in them paying us, but we wanted to just get the feedback as much as possible to keep improving the product. And we didn't want to give it to them for free. We still wanted them to pay us to know, is the product good enough that they'll pay for it? But yeah, I would say being as open and trying to collect that feedback from early customers as possible.
Yeah, that's, I think, one of the biggest mistakes some SaaS founders make. They simply don't collect feedback. They build the way they think it should be done and put it out there, and crickets. And I love that you went on the other path and asking as early on as possible for feedback and improving. And by any stretch of imagination, I'm not an expert in SaaS. And I want to ask as many questions as possible for any of those starting on this path to be able to grow the right way, and that's not the fast, hacky, or sketchy way. And on that note, you mentioned that you have now thousands of customers. How do you arrive there? Do you use any kind of advertising ways to, or you just went organic?
Yeah, so it's been mostly organic. We've tried advertising, but again, it's been a long time. So I do think that a SaaS business, it's what I enjoy the most because I love building software products. But I think if you are out there today starting your first business, a SaaS business is not the easiest and not the cheapest to start, even if you're a developer yourself. I would say that like things like an online course or community, digital products that can be downloaded, or services like being a consultant, designer, developer, those are much more easier to get started with, because yeah, the SaaS can take a while before you really start getting those customers. But our strategy was, we didn't want to have investors, and we didn't want to spend all of the money we had into advertising in the beginning. And so what we did was figure out how are some ways that we can do things that will create a leveraged impact in the future. And also considering that I knew I wanted to invest in this for the long term and stick with it at least a couple years before I would decide, okay, is this actually worth pursuing or not? And so I think having that longer term vision in mind is important, and deciding for yourself that you will commit to it for a certain amount of time, because especially in like software business, it takes a longer time. And when we first started like a marketing push to actually try to get ourselves more known, one of the things that we did that I think was super helpful was we were approached by AppSumo. And I'm sure most of the solopreneur community knows about them, but they're a site where you can get software deals at really good discounts. And so what we did was we talked to a bunch of other founders that either I had known or connected with on LinkedIn, and I asked them, what do you guys think about this? AppSumo approached us. They said they want to do a deal with our software. Did that work out well for you? Because I saw you did the deal in the past. What do you think about it? And the feedback I got from them overall, which having now been through that, I would agree with completely, is that the most important reason for doing that kind of deal is not for the early like cash that you can get from it, but from the feedback that you'll get from so many people joining the software at once. And then also from the ability to like kickstart word of mouth about your product, because that's something that's really hard to do. And especially for a software business, you need to do that in some way. And so you have to realize that there's some options out there. It could be investors. It could be, if you have money saved up, spending all of that money. It could be, in our case, leveraging some kind of partner who has an audience and then can get us out there. And so in the very beginning of 2020, before COVID got really serious in January, is when we had a deal with AppSumo. And we structured this, which I think is important for anyone who would consider this in the future. Usually these are lifetime deals. So we'd be giving somebody access to our platform forever. for a one-time price. And as a SaaS business, that's something that you have to really consider your pricing and your profits and everything, because what I really wanted to avoid, and I think some people make the mistake of not properly designing their model around, is that they're just setting themselves on a timer where you get all these customers to buy at a cheap price, but they only paid you once. And now it's okay, if you don't make something else work in a couple of years, you're just going to go out of business from the cost of these customers. And we didn't want to have that happen to us. So we worked with AppSumo to come up with a pricing model for this that would work for us. And that ended up to be selling these lifetime codes that people could purchase. And it was, I guess, $99 per code, and you could buy as many codes as you wanted, which I think is the second important part. You don't want to limit the amount that a customer can pay you. So even though it's a deal, if they want to pay more, you want to let them pay more. And so the way that we structured that was you could get more students for your account. You could get a higher student limit. So the features were similar to our regular subscription plans, but the amount of students that you would get was different and based on how many codes you would purchase. And then the other thing for us is we knew one of our ongoing costs that was going to be high was video hosting. It's really expensive to host videos and code them and serve them all around the world. And so we made the video hosting an add-on plan that it wouldn't come with that deal, but if people wanted it, they could purchase it basically at cost for a smaller subscription. And that worked out great because we went into it thinking, oh, it'd be nice if we get like a few hundred customers from this. And in a month, we got thousands just from that. And I think that by the time it ended, COVID was becoming more of a thing. That definitely helped with everybody realizing I have to move online. I have to bring my training I'm doing right now or something. I have to figure out a way to do it online. But I do think it was really important the way that we structured the offer to allow people to purchase more, because yeah, there was one or two customers where they tried to buy an account for just one code, which was $99. But there were the average amount of customers, I think on average, people bought more than two. And we have some customers today where they've bought like almost 40. So they've spent almost $4,000 on a one-time purchase. But that's, if you look at the lifetime value, that's the equivalent of them staying with us now at our current pricing for more than a few years. And so, yeah, in that sense, it worked out great. And for any new entrepreneur, I think that's one of the best things to do. It doesn't matter what business you're in, but finding a partner that has your audience and that you can work with them to leverage that, because building an audience takes time. And if you don't have that already, then the main ways to do it is to leverage somebody else's or to pay for it.
That's absolutely golden advice. And yeah, I love AppSumo. Shout out to Noah. He built an amazing product there and had this vision. And something that I want to ask you as well is, you knew when you started this business that creator economy will be such a big market that is continuing to grow, or when do you realize the potential that you sit on?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say I knew it would be exactly what it could be today, but I did think about it for a while. And I met a designer in my journey earlier on, John Kolko. And one of the things he said to me really stuck with me, and that was to work on problems worth solving. And so I realized after having been in business maybe 6 or 7 years at this point, that it's not all about the money. In the end, once you're making enough money, the motivation to keep doing it is the impact that you're making, and if you're actually doing something fulfilling. And so I thought, okay, if I'm going to build a software product, it has to be something that not only I would enjoy building, but long-term has a way to make a positive impact in something that I care about. And for me, that was education. And so that became not only helping students get better results and actually learn better, but also helping creators to earn a living and be able to earn a living through my platform. So I thought about that. And I also thought about the pricing of what I would build is what was the potential market there of what I could create from that business. And those are things I think are important to think about. But at the same time, if you're an entrepreneur and want to get started, it's probably better to start with something than to sit and think forever. And so I thought about those things for a while, only because I'd already started multiple other businesses and products. But I do want to stress that the biggest reason I see creators using my own software fail is because they don't get anything launched. They're sitting there with that idea too long and they don't actually put it out there. And so you could try things and then you can always change it, and you can come up with a new idea or realize that later on yourself and say, okay, how can I make this more fulfilling for me? How can I make a bigger impact? And you can always change it. But for me, I thought, okay, the market is there enough and I can sell something at this price point, then it has a bigger potential to create what I wanted. Because one of the first SaaS businesses I tried to create was a goal tracking software. And I think the original price for that was like $30 a year. And I quickly realized that it would be very hard to scale that at $30 a year, because I would just need thousands and thousands of customers before I could start making money. And it is harder to get customers than, it doesn't matter about the price. There's a lot of people that think, okay, if I just sell a cheaper product and I can get so many people to buy it. People don't want to buy an expensive thing. It's much easier to sell a cheaper thing. But it doesn't matter what the thing is. It's just hard to get customers in general. So one way I like to say it for terms of course creators is, if you wanted to build a business, think about your course or the community product, whatever it is that you're building. If you got 1,000 customers over the lifetime of that specific product, would you be happy with 1,000 times whatever price it is you want to sell it for and the result of that? And I think that's a good kind of baseline to determine, is this actually what you want to create? And is that the right thing to focus on? Because if you try to say, okay, I'm going to sell a $20 course or digital product and you get 1,000 customers, that's not really going to be that much for you. But if you can say, okay, maybe it's $200, then it starts to be like, okay, that would be great if I could do that, especially if I could do that in a year or two. And then you can say, what if I could make a more in-depth product? What if I could this whole thing into it? What if it's $2,000? Now you've got a multi-million-dollar business. So yeah, that would be my answer to that and how to approach it.
Thanks so much for sharing that. And what I'm curious to know, if you can share a bit of more data or insights, because a lot of those listening are either already content creators, have some sort of digital products or courses and so on, and might struggle to attract those students or sell it. You will advise them to go and follow trends and tweak their product, their courses or digital products to follow trends, for example, like now with AI, or to simply solve that problem that you mentioned, no matter if that problem involves or not trends or tech.
I think it's important, like I said, to know the kind of market you're getting involved in, to know if that matches with your potential goals. But I would say don't chase the trends and just do the thing what you want to do. Too many people try to chase the trends and say, oh, okay, now people are talking about AI. Now people are talking about this. And they want to go and make a new product that's related to that. And they're always chasing that trend. But again, that's not really fulfilling in the end if you're not particularly really passionate about that thing. And I'm happy to say that I have seen examples of people teaching anything, and the most uncommon, not a trend at all type things with Height's platform, and they're still able to make a living with that. So you're able to make money doing pretty much anything that you can provide somebody value with. It doesn't have to be the popular thing right now. And in fact, there's a lot of cases where when you're in this small niche, there's less competition. And one of the examples that we put on our website that I'm proud of is, we have this case study of a customer, and they didn't want to talk with us at all at first. They said, oh, I'm just like a creator. I just enjoy doing this thing. I'm not really a digital marketer. I don't want to actually talk about that. We said, no, that's perfect, because that's how we feel as well. And you're exactly the kind of customer that we want to showcase. And what she was teaching was the hammered dulcimer, and not only how to play this instrument, but like the music theory behind it. And I'm a musician myself. If you're watching this, maybe you can see there's guitars and stuff in the background. I didn't even know what a hammered dulcimer was. And she's making a full-time income teaching about this. And so I think things like that are an excellent example that you can make a living doing the thing that you enjoy. It doesn't have to be the big trend of what people are talking about right now.
Love that advice. And can you also share, apart from that, what's probably the most craziest successful educator on your platform? You don't have to share the name, just the topic or...
Yeah, there's a number of creators earning 6 and 7 figures on our platform. But I would say one that also stands out as a really good example, especially the solopreneurs, is, as I said before, the biggest reason we see people fail is that they just don't really get it out there. They may like click publish, but then they don't really tell anybody. And everybody's wants to be a perfectionist and say, oh, my branding has to be perfect. My logo has to be perfect, all of these things. And I know I suffered from that for a while. As a designer, I wanted to make sure everything was really the best of my ability that I'm showing people. And we had this one customer that they've been earning 6 figures a year from their course. And we would answer the questions. They would write our support pretty often. And we go into their account and we look, and they never changed their branding inside Heights. So like you can adjust your logo, put your own logo in, put your own name, change your color scheme. They never did any of those things. So it's like the default branding, it still says Heights and everything. And they're on a plan where they're able to change all of those things. So we let them know, hey, you know what? If you go here in these settings, like you can put in your own logo or your name. And they just don't really care about that. They just want to make this product and sell it. And I think that's such a great example because it shows that they either have a really great product or really great marketing. And you only need one out of those 3 things: branding, marketing, product. But the other things can be absolutely either horrible or non-existent. In this case, they had no branding at all. And you can still make a living from that. So you don't have to have the perfect marketing. You don't have to have the perfect branding, and you don't have to have the perfect product. Just focus on one of those things to start, and you can make it work for you.
And I noticed that you have a Creator Climb, which is trying to tackle exactly this problem of getting started, of putting your online course out there. When did you launch it, and how that helped grow Height platform?
Yeah, we launched that about a year ago. That's our own like courses and communities, still built on our software. And the idea there is I want to teach my potential customers either for free or as cheap as possible, because I don't need to make money from them in selling them a course. I want them to be as skilled as they can be and learn as much that they can from us, because the more they know, the more they'll be successful and they'll stick with us longer. And so that's kind of the goal with that. We built this community to show people not only how Heights platform works so they can see that, but also to get access to other creators and learn from us so they can be more successful, hopefully, as a creator, that they use our software longer. That's the overall marketing idea behind it. And we do charge for some of the things in there, but the reason is really because we want people to commit to it. Like we have a free podcast where I interview a bunch of creators, but then we also have these live workshops that we do every month where we bring somebody in and they specifically give a training on something. And we charge a small amount for that. It's like $99 for the year. So you get one every month for only $99. It's not that much, but we wanted to charge for it just to make sure people will show up, because if we say, oh, it's free, then people don't take it seriously. And then they say, oh, well, I'll check the next one, or oh, whatever. It's just a free thing. But yeah, the only reason we charge for those kind of things is to get people to kind of commit to it better themselves.
That's the thing, right? Usually it's harder to sell free things than paid ones, because indeed people don't take it seriously and they don't value your expertise. And yeah, I love that the way you pair those together and with the podcast as well. And how did you come up with the idea of the podcast? And by the way, I love the name, the Creators Adventure Podcast.
Thanks. Yeah, I think the podcast came up actually from me realizing a mistake in my SaaS business, which was I thought, as we were talking about earlier, okay, I have this product now that it's a higher priced product. It's $99 a month. So that means we can have all this profit left over. I'm going to go spend a bunch of money on ads, and that's going to be the easiest way to grow. And tens of thousands of dollars later, I realized that was not the case. And what I was thinking about in the wrong direction there was most of my competitors are these venture-backed software companies with hundreds of employees, and their investors want them to spend money on ads and grow faster, even if they're not profitable. So my competition is willing to spend like 3 years of a customer subscription upfront to acquire that customer because maybe that customer will upfront to acquire that customer because but for a bootstrapped small business like myself, I can't go and spend upfront to acquire that customer because like my customers. So I should show that off. I should let them know, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is how I'm involved in the whole thing. And I should really put myself out there more in that sense. I'm more of an introvert. It's not a passion that I had. I said, oh, I want to go do YouTube videos or anything like this. But I realized that my reason for that is to help other creators and make the impact that I want to make. So that became my reason. And yeah, realizing that we're not this faceless software company with hundreds of employees. So we shouldn't act like we are. And that was kind of the start of it. I had tried a podcast before while traveling. It was one of the maybe first shows that interviewed people in different countries that I would visit. But that was back in like 2010, and it was not a success. We got a sponsor to pay for the video hosting, but we didn't actually get really money from it. And it was too separated from a web design business at the time. It wasn't going to bring us clients. Whereas the Creators Adventure, talking with creators who are our customer or not, it still has the potential to really get people more involved in our brand and what we're doing and attract audience of creators in the long term.
Yeah, I love that approach. And that's usually the case when you pair something that can showcase your personal brand, attach that to your business. It's always valuable. Look, like the most successful Goliaths in the tech industry in the world, their CEOs are much more known than the brand itself per se. I don't know, Elon Musk or something. And on that note, you mentioned that you had that mistake. Any other mistakes or challenges and how you overcome that?
I think probably that was the biggest one for me, being in not maybe the mindset, but thinking that that was the way to do things earlier rather than having this more approach of putting myself out there, because I thought, oh, we have the brand. The brand is going to be bigger than me as an individual. That's the better way to do it. But just as you said, now, especially over the last few years, the personal brands are actually the strongest. You have Elon Musk. He's more well-known or talked about than any of his individual companies, I think. And it was also maybe the fear in some small way, even if I didn't believe it, that people would doubt it or would feel differently about their confidence if they thought, oh, it's him. It's not a big company. It's him. And so realizing that people don't really worry about that, and people can actually trust you more when they get to know you versus not knowing anybody behind the company and just thinking it's some brand. And so becoming more comfortable with that for myself, I think, was important as well. And I would encourage any solo entrepreneur to not worry about that thing. Oh, it's just me. Because if I look back on what I've done so far, starting when I was even a teenager, still doing these web designs and things like that, yeah, clients could have said, oh, you don't know what you're doing. You're just a kid. But really, when I look back at it, like, people really didn't say that to me, and I got stuff done and I grew. And so I would encourage anyone out there to also not worry about that kind of thing, because you're probably worried about it more than your actual potential customers are.
Yeah, indeed. And that's almost always the true when you have a roadblock, that it's an internal one rather than an external one, because those external one are just a temporary roadblock, but those internal one, if you don't fix them, can stick with us, unfortunately, for the entire of our life. And fixing those will end up putting us in the shoes of that person that is able to achieve whatever goal that you have. And speaking of goals, I noticed that you guys already implemented AI into the platform. What are the future goals for Heights platform? And do you have certain milestones in terms of students or in terms of growth, or you'll continue to grow
I want to grow our team and everything very deliberately because I'd rather have a team of 10 to 50 people that I can know very well than a team of hundreds to thousands of people that I don't even know who works at my company. So I like keeping things small for the way I enjoy the work, but I still want to grow our impact as much as possible within that. So get as many creators and help them get as many students as possible. And when it comes to I think we're in such an incredible time right now because I think back and I feel like there's been these moments in the past where I'm thinking, wow, this is the opportunity for creators and they should take advantage of this because there's never been a time like this before. This is the best time right now to be a creator. And I feel like some of those moments have passed by a couple times, but I'm glad now that the AI makes it feel like that moment is here again because with AI as a solopreneur, you have the ability to contribute more than you ever have before because AI can help you do all these things. And it's changed it from, okay, I have to imagine this idea. Now, what do I have to learn to go and implement it? Who do I have to hire to go and implement it? And how do I have to have a process? And then finally you create something. To now it's just imagine, create. You can make pictures, you can make text, you can make audio, video, all these different things. And AI is really powerful in that, specifically in the way that it can help you make decisions on things. Because I also think most creators, your biggest roadblock is not the time it takes you to make something, but it's the decisions you have to make along the way that you get stuck on. And I'm sure those listening or watching can think back to a moment where they wanted to build something or they wanted to create something, and weeks, months, maybe years went by where they didn't actually make progress on that because they're trying to decide on this one thing before they can do that. And AI, at the very least, can act as a great partner for you to be able to talk about those decisions and bounce those ideas off of to have someone help you. And so there's a number of AI kind of innovations in our software, but one of the most unique ones is Heights AI Coach. And it is the first autonomous coach to help creators build their courses and community businesses. And what I mean by that is when you go to something like ChatGPT, it can be helpful. You can ask it to be a coach for you, but you have to ask it questions and you have to know what questions to ask it. So in the case of Heights AI Coach, it's actually going to ask you questions and it's going to learn about the products that you're building inside Heights platform, the different things you've talked about with it in the past. And then every week it's going to give you tasks and recommendations of what you should work on next. And that's my favorite part of it because it will actually write you an email. So you get to wake up to an email from your AI coach giving you suggestions for that week. And the thinking behind it was we were wondering for a while, how could we better coach or better support our creators? Is there some kind of way we can create this like programmatic algorithm or path that recommends certain ideas or tasks for them? And then GPT-4 came out and suddenly all that became possible. So yeah, that's what led to that today in I'd say I coach.
Man, that's brilliant. I think that's not only a smart way to do it, but the way you pair it with your software in order to be able to support those creators create easier and faster their programs and their courses, it's the way to go. And I must confess something. I postponed launching my own digital products and courses for such a long time. And now you just give me the tool and I will definitely try it out to see how it goes. And for those listening, all the links will be in the show notes for you to check them out. And man, I think the sky's the limit with AI. But in the same times, there might be potential dangerous way of using AI. And any of those that you come across, or how do you see the future when it comes to this technology?
Yeah, I think there's definitely right and wrong ways to use AI, and creators sometimes have misconceptions about that. And so I don't think AI should write all of your content for you. I think that is a horrible idea because AI doesn't have any context about you. And if you go to ChatGPT and say, do this thing for me, it's like the equivalent of walking to some random person on the street and saying, do this thing for me. They don't know anything about you. They don't know what your business even is. They don't know what you're trying to accomplish or why or who your customer is. And yeah, you can ChatGPT and tools have these custom instructions you can build now. Now you can create custom GPTs and all of that helps. But the best way to use AI is to have it as a decision making partner, have it as something to help you review content, have it help you transform content in ways, but it shouldn't be writing the content for you. Because if you think about it, as a creator, the value that you have, especially in terms of something like an online course, you could say, why can't ChatGPT just make the course for me? The unique value and unique message that you have as a creator, your experiences, your message, that's what's unique. And that's where a customer is going to value that. That's why they're buying the course, because they believe that you can get them this result from your specific experiences and they're relating to your specific messaging. But if you make a course with ChatGPT completely, then somebody else can go and do that same exact thing. You're selling the same exact course. So you went from something where you're in a business of like course creation, I think is so great because you have almost no competitors. If you're selling like a widget on Amazon, somebody else can sell that same thing. And you have to compete on price, or maybe your product listing can be a little bit better. But with an online course, even if somebody's selling about this exact same topic, you still have the potential to have something really completely unique, because the way that you learned it, the way that you teach it, the experiences that you've had along the way, nobody else can copy or replicate that. And so that is something that is important to consider in using AI. Like, we don't use AI to write any of our content. We publish multiple blogs a week, but we do use it in ways to help us review content. We use it to help us support our customers. So Heights AI chat can answer questions about using our software, and it answers thousands of questions every month for us, but we didn't get rid of our support team. What our support team does now is they're able to help customers on like the harder issues. That's more like strategy oriented and things like that. But we don't have to tell the customer like, oh, here's where you find the button anymore. You can ask the AI and it'll help you with that instantly. So it allows us to help customers more deeply in a way. And then what our support is doing is they're going into looking at the feedback that we're getting. If somebody gives it like a bad rating on the AI response, and then seeing how can we improve our content to train the AI better so it knows better answers. But there's a lot of ways where, as an individual, you can use AI to automate processes in your business, but not do the work for you. So you don't want it to replace all of your creative output and ideas, but you want to help it facilitate the creation of those creative output and ideas. And what I mean by that is, like we talked about before, if you want to hire a VA, you want to give them this process. They have to work through the process, and then that's how they're going to do the thing. So if you've written out that process for a VA before, you can do the same thing for AI. You write out the process, and then you have your AI that helps you with that specific process. So it could be reviewing your video script, reviewing a blog post, something like this. And it's a shift in the way for thinking, I think, for some people. You don't have to have one AI assistant. You can have as many as you need, and they can each help with these specific roles or tasks as long as you define it for them and then describe what they should do, how they should respond, how long the response should be, and explain what you're looking for. Because some people get a bad result with ChatGPT and they say, oh, it says some stupid thing to me. Can you tell it what you're looking for? Write out, what do you expect as a response? Is it a list? Is it multiple headings? How do you want it formatted? How long should it be? What should it be about? What are the guidelines for how it should act? And when you do that, then you get much better responses from AI.
That's the thing, like a tool is as good as the user. And the other, it's having this paradigm shift that AI, it's really useful. But if you use it for the things that you can be known for, like your own content, like your own unique voice, where's your personal brand? It's just an AI clone of you, or same apply with the written content. And yeah, having this shift and actually use it as leverage, as a thought partner, as a feedback partner, it's such an underrated way. And speaking of authenticity, I would like to wrap up by giving a small actionable item for those listening. Those steps they have to make in order to start putting their skills out there for others to learn from, to build their own online course.
I would say you got to just do it. So whatever it is that you have, find a way to get it out there right away. Even if maybe it's not a course yet, if you don't have any audience, maybe it's just starting with posting one blog, one video, one social media post, and try to get some kind of feedback or get in touch with one person, one potential customer, and hear from them and make it free. If you feel it's not ready yet, that you can't charge for it, then give it away for free, help them out. answer their questions, learn more about what they want and what their problems are, and realize that it is this journey. It's not like you're going to make this one product, it's going to come out and suddenly you're a millionaire. It's a journey of continuously iterating and improving. And I think it's applies to almost any kind of business, but especially courses, communities, and software. You can always change it. You can always shift. You can always improve it. And so realize that for yourself. And then I think that will open the door to allow you to express that creativity and start building things much easier instead of holding it back and worrying about it being perfect.
Grow through iteration and feedback. Thank you so much, Bryan. Please tell our listeners, apart from Hide platform, website, and Creator Climb, where else they can connect with you.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks so much for having me. You can find me on YouTube. I'm going to be creating some more content there soon. Hide's platform, our YouTube. A little bit active on Twitter. I talk about AI stuff. Bryan McAnulty on Twitter if you want to follow me there. But really, yeah, I'd encourage you to join our free community at Creator Climb. There's no charge at all to join. We've got almost 9,000 creators there now. And then if you are ready to create some kind of course or community business yourself, then we've got a free 30-day trial at heightsplatform.com. There's no credit card required. You can try out Heights AI Chat and Heights AI Coach. It's all completely free to try.
Awesome. Bryan, it was such a pleasure to have you on the show. Looking forward to follow Heights grow and see you at the top. You, yes, you're one of the few that stick to the end. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for doing so. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so below. And if you got any value from this, please share it with a friend. They might got some value from it as well. Thank you so much, and until next week, pura vida!